while they're traveling, you know, in the first few days of the race, we're a little more concerned they may get too warm. You know, in Anchorage on the first Saturday in March, it's usually sunny and 35 degrees, which is, you know, scorching hot temperatures. But by the time we reach, you know, Nikolai or McGrath, it might be minus 20 or windy, and then, you know, jackets would be used when they're traveling. It's often that we use them more when we stop and rest, kind of how athletes do in pro sports. They put jackets on, keeps their muscles kind of from getting too stiff and those kind of things. So, the alcohol stove, I wanted to just talk about this for just a minute or two before we go play with puppies, which is very important. But the alcohol stove is a way that I can feed myself and feed the dogs out on the trail. So sometimes I will stop and rest at the checkpoints where there's bales of straw for the dogs bedding. They have hot water already available for me. I don't have to melt snow. And then I could go inside of a tent after I've cared for the dogs and fed them, and there's a wood stove. I could thaw out, you know, I could change my wet socks because I've been running up the hills, hopefully not so much that I'm really wet in my underlayers. So there's creature comforts for the mushers at the checkpoints, but sometimes the dogs rest better when you go out of the checkpoints. There's no distractions on the trail. There's no people walking around and dog teams barking and all this. So the dogs probably rest better on the trail, but there's a little less creature comfort for the human being. So when I'm ready to go through a checkpoint, I'll just pull in and sign the timesheet, and then I'll load a food bag, one of my food bags, into the sled, and then I'll carry straw for their bedding on the trail, and then I'll go out maybe 15 miles and pull off that main path, and then I'll take the snow melter, this pot here, I'll pour some bottles of alcohol down into the bottom, and then this is filled with snow. You know, the freshly fallen snow is mostly air. You know, a foot of new snow is, you know, about 85% air. You just melt it down and maybe get an inch of water. So it takes 45 minutes maybe just to get enough snow melted. Once I have piping hot water, I take my food, which is in a vacuum sealed pouch, and I just dip it in the water, and then I have hot food ready in a couple of minutes. But I don't eat before I feed the dogs. I always feed the dogs first. You don't want to be that musher. So I will pour my hot water into a cooler that sits on this rear stanchion, and I have a meal prepared for the dogs in here. I have red meat. If it's very cold, they'll eat more chicken skins and fatty foods. But we want to get them a warm meal, so that's what the cooler's for. It keeps the food piping hot for them. And then once all the dogs are laying on their straw bedding and I've taken good care of their feet, they have their jackets on and a full belly, then I'll come back and then I'm gonna, you know, wolf down my food and organize the sled, and I just usually go lay next to the dogs on the straw. That's kind of what I'll do in terms of resting for me. So I'm gonna